Welcome back to Common Sense. I'm Representative Patricia Morgan, and I have with me today former Representative John Loughlin.
Recovering state representative.
But you're here today as a representative of the National Federation of Independent Businesses, and we've been talking about the things that we do in Rhode Island that make it so hard for small businesses to exist here. Right? We have a hostile business climate. It is not just a bad business climate, it is hostile. And it's hostile more specifically, I think, to small businesses.
It is. Small businesses, and you know, if you think about it, if you're a small business owner, let's say you own a garage, you know, oftentimes you're busy fixing the cars and getting the customers taken care of and getting things done, and the whole layers of compliance that you have to deal with the state for boiler inspections, tangible taxes, payroll taxes. I meet more business owners that say, I wouldn't dare hire anybody. I wouldn't do it because of the what it brings in terms of a regulatory nightmare.
What that man wants to hire is somebody to help him fix the cars.
Yes.
Not somebody to do the paperwork.
Right.
Right? That's what
but
his
many
business is about.
employers are afraid to add anyone because of the regulatory intrusion that brings, and that's what keeps our economy stagnant. That's why businesses aren't creating jobs.
Yeah.
So it's one of the reasons businesses aren't creating jobs.
But let's just go to, you had mentioned in the last segment that you had talked with the woman who had a cooler. And
right.
She had the tangible tax on that. Tangible tax is for all the things that I guess you can pick up and move. Right? So any inventory, any desks, any computers, anything like that.
It's subtitled business equipment or personal equipment used in business.
But she was talking about a cooler.
Right, and it was one of these display coolers, and it was an Art Deco thing from like the 1930s. It's absolutely gorgeous. But the point is that, you know, she had paid so much intangible tax over the years that she had this in her business that she literally could have bought 3 more, but didn't because she had to pay the tangible tax on this one. But think of what that would have done in terms of the ripple effect in the economy had she been able to purchase new equipment.
Sure, there would have been the company that sold her that case. There would have been the manufacturer that made the case.
The transportation company.
It would have been the trucker who brought it into Rhode Island. So all those other jobs would have been created by getting the monkey off of her back, right?
Yeah, and an interesting thing about the tangible tax, and you may have run into this, is as a state rep, I had Humphreys Lumber is in my district. Well, technically Humphreys Lumber is not in my district, but Mr. Humphrey lives in my district.
Okay.
And so he was complaining.
Mr. Humphrey is.
he was complaining about the tangible tax. He said, you know, why do I have to pay tax on my desk every year? He said, this is ridiculous. He said, so when the tax assessor came in, the tax assessor said, well, we don't want to do it, but the state forces us to. I said, really? I'll get back to you on that. So I went and looked it up. And in fact, we don't.
No.
The state basically allows them to charge tangible tax, but it also says in the statute that the rate could be set at 0. So if Tiverton didn't want to charge tangible tax, they could very easily set the rate to 0 and they'd be fine. So that's one of the things where the local municipality sometimes plays off the state, and I'm sure we at the state play off the federal government, but that's the sort of hand-wringing that takes place. But those of you out listening to this, lobby your town council person, your city council people, and tell them you want the tangible tax reduced to 0. And they can do it. And don't listen to them when they say the state makes us pay charge tangible tax. It enables, but the rate can be set to 0.
But the bottom line is we have to figure out ways to make all property taxes less.
Absolutely. That's one of the other structural pieces that I was talking about
We are
earlier.
not a lightly taxed state, and every homeowner out there feels it. We have to figure out a way to make it cheaper, less expensive. I think Massachusetts figured that out at one point.
They did?
But we haven't yet.
And if you remember, was it Prop 2.5 or when it first came out?
It was Prop 2.5. It was going to destroy
it was Armageddon. The state of Massachusetts would crumble and fall off into the ocean.
Everything would die.
And their schools now are the best in the country.
Right.
Under the austerity of Prop 2.5. So what that tells me is that you can decouple cost and quality.
That's right.
That for lower cost, you can still get higher quality.
You can get good quality.
Yep.
Exactly. So we have to figure out what that mechanism is, because it not just hurts people in their homes, it hurts businesses. You hurt businesses. You don't have jobs. Your children leave the state. Yep. You have to leave the state. So we've talked about energy costs. We've talked about property tax. Honestly, the property tax, and let me just, another digression. My hairdresser, She owns her own little shop. And she said, so what are you going to do when she found out I was elected? What are you going to do for small businesses? And I said, well, what would you like me to do? And she said, please lower the property tax.
It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
Because when you're a little person, right, that property tax takes a bigger chunk of your bottom line than if you're a big company. And I know everybody keeps looking for that whale, but we've got to help the small businesses in Rhode Island, because that's where most of our jobs come from.
That's exactly right. And people don't realize that. The bulk of our economy is in small businesses, 3, 5, 10 and less people jobs or employers. And so to the extent we help small business, I mean, that's going to be the driver that's actually going to turn the economy around.
Yeah, and the big businesses, they are able to hire the lobbyists and get the deals for themselves. Small businesses is just getting thumped. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Getting a thumping. And that's why it's really so good that the National Federation of Independent Business is there as another voice. Someone who's there really representing small businesses.
Right. I mean, the bulk of our members are from 5 to 1 employees.
Yeah. And you're a good voice.
Thank you.
Yes, really, you've been a good help to me as a legislator.
Well, some of the things that, often at NFIB, there are bills that we have to work with responsible legislators to stop. The scheduling bill was a classic. I don't know if you remember this from the last session. Essentially what this was,
monstrosity.
And when I tell business owners about this, I have to tell them, look, I'm not making this up. This was a bill that would require you to publish a schedule 2 weeks in advance for all your employees. If you deviate from that schedule for any reason, you have to pay a penalty.
Oh, it was a large penalty.
And it gets worse.
You had to pay them extra. It was a real bad penalty. You still had to pay them like they were on the regular schedule, but it was time and a half and blah, blah, blah. It was awful.
And, the reason that bill came to be, there's an old saying, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. In the General Assembly, they're a pretty big hammer. And what was happening is you had some of these big box stores, not necessarily in Rhode Island, but in other places, where the manager of the big box store has a computer console, and it shows his labor cost, and it shows how much goods are going out of the door in real time. So what that guy would do is he would call an employee and say, okay, Patricia, come in from 8 to 11, then go home for 4 hours. Then I want you to come in for 2 hours, then go home for an hour and a half, and then come in for 2 hours.
Oh, that's not allowed by state law, though.
Now, but that's what the genesis of this bill was. And the way you fix that is you have a thriving economy. So Patricia can say, you know what, I don't like this work schedule, see ya. I'm not going to do it.
It's about having plentiful jobs, right? So that employees are empowered to go somewhere else.
Exactly.
I think you're right. And we don't have plentiful jobs in Rhode Island because we have a really hostile business climate. So luckily that bill was killed.
For now. But as you know, it's like Night of the Living Dead. These bills, will come back, and until you drive a wooden stake through its heart at midnight or use a silver bullet, the bills just keep coming back and back. The one that amazes me was the unionization of the in-home daycare workers. We thought we had killed that zombie at least 4 times, including a gubernatorial veto, and we thought that we got the garlic out and put the wooden stake in it, and it still came back after we were gone and passed.
Yeah.
So they're
it's
like
back, and the contract has been negotiated, and it's just driving up the cost of childcare for everybody. Not good. Not good for families, not good for businesses.
But that's why I always say we didn't really kill it. We didn't get the wooden stake in its heart.
And so the scheduling bill may be back?
It may very well be back.
God forbid. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.